Hey guys, Carlos Colon here with Georgia Perimeter Homes, and today we're going to be talking about how do I buy a home when I'm just turning 18 or maybe right at 18, 19. I've talked about this before in the past, and it's not as easy as it sounds. In fact, you probably, there are several steps you have to prepare for in advance to doing this. So that's what we're going to go down, is how to accomplish that and what you need to prepare for. If you have not done so already, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell and give this video a like. That way alright, jumping right in, I have talked about this before in the past. If I had to do this all over again, what would I change? I didn't buy my first house until I was in my mid-20s or so, mid to late 20s, and which is what most people end up doing. It's very rare for people to end up buying, in their early 20s, although I personally would recommend it highly. In this case, we're talking about the extreme, which is in the state of Georgia, you have to be a legal adult in order to purchase a home. That is 18 here in the state of Georgia. So with that said, what do you need to do to prepare for this? How do you make that happen? And there are definitely some great steps that you need to take, and also some great loan products that you need to know about in order to help you with your first purchase. So let's start with the most important question that most people are going to have right off the bat: credit and credit score. This is something you need to start working on very early, okay, well before you're 18. The best way to do this is you can establish a prepaid credit card in order to start building credit. Now, my personal opinion, you can take out 2 to 3 credit cards and do this, and keep those lines going all the time. That's really important to do. I think that establishing multiple lines of credit and showing your ability to be able to pay back and pay on time is extremely important, and banks are going to look for that when they're looking at possibly lending a huge loan to you to purchase a home. Alright, so with that said, again, getting multiple credit cards and paying them on time, whether secured or unsecured, you can do both, it's fine. But the key is they need to report to the credit bureaus. Now, one of the other steps that you can take is obviously you can also go ahead and purchase a vehicle sometime before you're 18 and put your name on it and make those payments as well. The only caveat to this is then you'll have your car payment. The problem with that becomes your car payment's going to lower the amount that you're going to approve for as far as purchasing a house. So that may not always be the best case scenario. In fact, in most cases, most people that are right at 18 don't make quite enough money to be able to afford, a nice big house. So hence the term starter home. A starter home is typically a smaller home, a cheaper home that you get started in. Sometimes it needs a little bit of work, sometimes it doesn't. It's completely up to you and your area where you're purchasing. Now, with that said, credit is the number one thing you need to get started early. Alright, so if it was me, I think that I did get a secured credit card when I was about 14, 15. And kept that line throughout and turned that into an unsecured credit card, and then kept building that credit line up. Now, as you're building those credit cards up, you really want those credit lines to be as high as possible. So every chance you have the ability to increase your credit line, do it. That means you might start at $500 secured or $100 secured, and maybe they say, hey, you've done great on paying, we're going to bump you up to $1,000. With your approval. Yeah, do it. Even if you don't use it. The point is not to use $1,000. It's to have that credit line available to you. Because then what it starts to do is affect what's called your debt to income ratio. This is a part of your credit. Your debt to income ratio is going to take how much debt do you have versus how much your income is. Now, the debt part is what we're focusing on right now, because having a credit card means you have more debt if you're using it. However, let's say I only owe $100 on my credit cards, but my credit line is $10,000. Well, guess what? As a percentage of the available credit to me of $10,000, I've got less than 1% that I'm using on that. So that's great. That's great as far as how much of my credit lines I'm actually not utilizing. That's really going to help my credit score bump up. So if you get started early with this, it'll be easy to continue building more and more credit and higher credit. So next, we kind of led into it already, debt to income ratio. This is going to be what a loan officer looks at in order to look at how much home you can actually approve. So what does that mean? Number one, the second you can get a job and start saving every penny humanly possible. And number two is make sure you're continuing to increase the income that you're receiving while you're working. So you want to receive the highest income possible in order to show your ability to be able to pay a mortgage. Now, in most cases, correct me if I'm wrong, Kate, we're looking for about a 50% or less debt to income ratio, depending on what kind of loan you're taking. I believe FHA gives you your highest flexibility on that percentage amount, but as long as we stay under 50, we're usually going to approve for something. And I will say this, it depends on your credit score, it depends on how much money you have saved too. So I will also say it is always better to have lower than 40% on the debt to income ratio, and that's the better general rule to operate off of. That means that once you add in whatever mortgage payment you're going to be making, you need to make sure that you still have plenty left over at the end of the month to be able to pay for everyday living. So that's what they use. They use a debt to income ratio to determine how much house can you actually afford. This is where it gets important. So most people will not have a huge $60,000 job at 18 or 19. So what you have to make sure that you do is you probably want a co-signer to help you with this when you're 18. So that means that you're going to be applying for the mortgage, but maybe grandpa or grandma are going to jump in there with you. Maybe mom and dad are going to jump in there with you on the mortgage itself to be able to solidify the right amount of income to be able to get that home for you. Okay? So this is the important part about this. You have to be very strategic on who you use with this, because let's say that you use your mom or dad or brother or sister, maybe they're older than you are, and you do that together. That will tie them up with the amount of loans that they're applied for and approved for their own purchases. So that means that whoever does that with you is now committed to your mortgage unless at some point we get them removed by doing some kind of refinance. Okay, so you have to keep that in mind. So in a perfect world, I've seen children use their parents. I've seen them use their grandparents. But I have also seen brothers, sisters, and cousins even apply for loans together. So you just have to be very careful and think long-term as well as short-term. If I want to buy my house next year and I'm helping you to approve for yours, that means that at some point next year, I've got to be off of your mortgage somehow. What's that going to look like? And do we have a plan for that then? So just make sure you've thought those things out. So that also means that that second person that you're going to be applying with you as a co-signer also needs to have good credit to be able to help you out. So you both need to approve for this. Now, here's the important part. We've been talking about applying for a loan. What kind of loans? There are several loan products that are going to be able to help you out so you don't have to spend a whole lot of money at closing. In the state of Georgia, we have great products like Georgia Dream that help first-time home buyers. It depends on the market that you're in when you're watching this video and buying at the time, but it's great for first-time home buyers when we can find the right home in the right situation for you. The problem is if you're in a multiple offer situation, it's not the strongest product the sellers are going to look for because it makes you look like you don't have money, and that's why you're asking the federal program to help you. So think about it that way also. So even though, yes, it's a great product for buyers, it's not always, basically a red flag for a lot of sellers going, oh, this buyer may not have money just in case things don't go well during the appraisal process or the inspection period. And so just keep that in mind for the market that you're in. Now, there are also programs all over the United States that, for example, NACA. NACA is a great program, and that's NACA. It can be a headache to go through it. However, it's 100% loan, much like Georgia Dream is, where you don't have a down payment for that. However, When you do the NACA program, they take you through courses, and Georgia Dream does too, but NACA is a lot more extensive. It's actually run through Bank of America, and it's a federal program that runs through Bank of America in order to approve people for their first home. And I say first home because you cannot have owned a home within the last 3 years or so in order to use this program, and neither can your spouse or anybody that lives with you. So, if you can approve for that, go for it. I think it's a great product. We've sold some homes under the NACA program, and it's a little bit of a headache on the communication with the lender on that one, but it's worth it because there's not many products out there that are as good as that one for 100% financing, that is. So, we talked about Georgia Dream, we talked about NACA. Of course, you've got conventional, and conventional can be as low as 3% down. All the way up to 20% or more down as far as your down payment on the loan. You've got FHA is a great first-time home buyer program. FHA is 3.5% down, which is one of your lower ones as well. And then we've got products like USDA, which are 100% financing, so 0% down program, but it's mainly for rural areas, so away from downtown areas and cities. And then there are maps online where you can actually check to see if particular homes are within the USDA area. So we'll have that link down below so that you can check that out. And so that if you're interested in doing a USDA, make sure to apply. And again, make sure that the lender that you're working with understands USDA if you're going to go that route. Or if you're going to do Georgia Dream or you want to do Georgia Dream, talk to a lender that does Georgia Dream and does them at a very high level so that they can walk you through what the ins and outs are and to make sure that you qualify. Throughout this entire process, again, you're young, you're trying to buy your first home, you cannot miss a payment. You cannot be late on a payment. I mean, it is so important that you pay your stuff on time. I cannot stress that enough. So, you're already going to have the issue of you don't have 10 years of history of making these payments before you buy your first home. And they really want to see 10 years or more of these established credit lines. So that's a problem. So if you already only have 3 or 4 years, and if you started when you were 14, for example, with these credit cards, and you made 1 or 2 late payments every year, that's a problem. I promise you it is. So you've got to think about these things ahead of time. All right. So along with being able to pay for the closing, you've got several options. Just so you know, there. One of the best options is really going to be gift money, and what that means is you've got family or friends or relatives rather that are going to be gifting you money in order to be able to pay for the closing for this home. Okay, it's exactly what it sounds like. It is a gift for you to be able to buy this house, and they want to track that when you're getting a loan for a house. So you want to make sure you talk to your lender about how that works. Now, in other cases, some of the best ways to do this when you don't have friends that have a whole lot of money or family that have a whole lot of money is sometimes you've got family that already owns homes, and they can go ahead and take out part of their equity for their house, and then that can be a gift towards you. And so that can help you out as well. So make sure to think outside the box on that one, because maybe your parents don't have $10,000 or $15,000 to help you with it, but maybe they've got it in their house as a form of equity that they can pull out and help you that way. So again, talk to your lender about that, on whether, is that allowed? Is that okay for you? Every situation is different when you're purchasing a house. So in summary, number 1, we want to have great credit. We want to establish it early. Number 2, we want to make sure that we've saved enough money or prepared to have a co-signer with us to apply for the loan so we can approve for the loan. And number 3, we want to make sure that if we don't have the money, we've got a gift or from a family member or a friend or a relative in some way, shape, or form that's going to be able to get us to closing. Okay? That is going to be the best way to help you out. The beautiful part about starting this when you're young is absolutely, if you were to start this when you're 18, within the first 2-3 years, you could sell that house, make the profit, and that would be tax-free with the current laws that we have right now at the time that we're filming this. And then at that point, you can roll that equity into whatever house comes next. Or maybe you can use that to purchase your home in college. and that could be where you live as you finish up your master's or so forth. And then that leads into the next house, which leads into the next house. And so that's a great way to get started. The first one is always the hardest. It gets easier after that. So don't give up. I promise it's worth it. And if you have any questions about this, give us a call, 770-314-1285. And check out some great starter homes on our website at georgiaperimeterhomes.com. Thanks.